So let's walk through how exactly to use the ThinkOrSwim platform or the TOS platform, however you want to call it, right? Right. So to keep things simple, I like super simple, right? I don't want to go through and just tell you, hey, you got to learn how to use the monitor tab, trade here, analyze, scan, market watch, charts, all this junk up here, right? If you want to call it junk. A lot of it's just kind of extra fluff, right? No one goes to the help for the most part unless you need to contact customer service. Education, no one ever clicks that. Tools, rarely anyone ever clicks that. Marketplace, rarely. Most of the stuff is it's kind of fluff or extra little nice good to have things, right? But anyway, getting to the point, the main two pieces you need are monitor, scan, depending on your strategy, and then charts. Nothing more, nothing less. So monitor, just to keep it super simple, the first little tab you can have is activity and positions. And all this really says, realistically, is just to say after you've bought and sold a stock or an option, at the bottom here, it's going to show you that, hey, if I open this little piece here, this little drop down menu, if you will, it's going to show that, hey, as an example, you bought SPY, which is the S&P 500, and this is how much money you made currently today. Usually this would be the defaults, P&L, P/L, so it's profit and loss open, P/L, profit and loss day, and VP effect, and there's other things, right? But this was and realistically, all you need the monitor tab is to know, hey, how much money did I make? Or sadly, how much money did I lose, right? And if you want to change the tabs, you can. You can click this little gear icon over here. This should pop up that you can add all these little nice fancy columns. You can see there's probably thousands of different columns. But realistically, as traders, I would imagine all we really care about is, hey, how much did we make? How much did we lose? Based off of the analysis that we do in the charts, right? So I usually just keep it just as simple as this. What's my P&L for the day? Call it a day. So that's that, right? Then there's other tabs like the account statement and FX statements and blah, blah, blah. No one ever rarely clicks this. The only time, me personally, I click account statement is if I can download the past transactions. So you can see, you can download the past transactions for all, or you can change it to a specific date to say, hey, I want to download and show me all of the past trades that I've done. And then that way I can have a list of say I did this, I made that profit, I made this, I made that profit, I made that, I did this trade, but I made this loss, right? It shows you a list of that. If you want me to do a tutorial on that, let me know. But it's pretty straightforward for the most part. I'll leave that at that. So that's the monitor tab, right? And then if I go to scan, I'm not going to cover that in this tutorial, but scanning, because I don't technically use it anymore, is essentially just to say that, hey, I'm thinking about finding a high percent gainer, which in simple terms basically means that, hey, I want to know what's the fastest growing stock today that maybe moved 5% or 20% or 40% already, hypothetically, right? I want to find that high percent gainer so maybe I could potentially trade that, right? Or maybe when you want to show that, hey, what's the fastest moving stock for the 52 in the past 52 weeks? Or what's the slowest one? What's the one that's being talked about the most? What's the one being traded the most? Whatever the metric is, you can find stocks using this scan tab. Again, I'm not going to cover that here because the way I trade, I only trade one ticker. All I trade is SPY all day and every day. So for me, it doesn't make any sense to use scan. I try to keep things simple. So for me, all I use personally is the monitor tab to know, hey, how much money did I make, right? And the activity position. Monitor tab, how much money I make, and the charts tab here of let me figure out how exactly to trade and listen to the chart rather than me chasing things, right? So this is my entire view for ThinkOrSwim and the platform for TOS, right? So I basically have it all broken up into four kind of quadrants, if you will. Top left, top right, and bottom right. And this is what, so if you can go ahead and scroll down, you can actually download this exact template on your computer and you can get the exact view. And then for a quick explanation, right? So you'll be able to get this exact link here, up here, and you can basically say that, hey, I want to download the desktop version. So you can click here, you'll be given a link that you can copy paste and load up into it, right? You'll get the four exact quadrants if you're on a desktop. If you're on a laptop, of course, the screen's a little bit smaller, right? So you'll have to use the laptop version down here. Still just as good, and I'll explain why and how, but it's the same thing here. And to kind of show you how to load it, so if I click here, right? Let's say, oh, okay, I want to download the desktop version. You get taken to this odd looking screen. This is by default. I didn't create this. And it's basically to show that, hey, this is desktop workspace -mk. That's what I named it. You basically click this the one time, copy this link, go back to your ThinkOrSwim platform, and then you're going to go up into here, click the setup on the top right over here, this button, this gear icon, click open shared item, and then right here, you can't right click and paste, right? So for a Windows computer, you have to click Control and V, which is going to paste it. Then you click preview. This is not what it looks like, obviously, right? This is just their little default image that it's horrible, right? I have no idea why you do that. And then you just click import. And of course, before you do that, right, click open shared items after you press import, right? So it doesn't just stay static. But you click import. And once you click import, it's going to load, give it maybe 60 seconds or so. You're going to hear a whole bunch of bings. That's basically, it's just trying to load everything that I've done in settings in the past. And there you go. You'll have this exact view. So that's that. That's how to do it. But let's talk about what exactly you're looking at. So what you're looking at here is again my 4 quadrants, my 4 core charts. So the way I trade, all I trade is SPY. So everything you're looking at is SPY. And essentially all that really means is that, hey, from in the top left, this is my 1 minute chart of SPY. So you can see here, today, 1 minute, right? And you can see there's other little time frames you can switch to. It can be today, 1 minute, today, 5 minute, 5 days. See, it says 5D, so 5 day, or 1 minute, 1 minute here. 6 months. It's a 1 day view. There's a lot of different time frames you can use, but I keep it super simple, right? The top left is the the 1 day view here, the 1 minutes chart. The bottom left is the 5 minute chart of SPY, right? And you can technically see they're going the same way, right? So from a visual perspective, it kind of goes over and then down, right? So over then down on the 1 minute chart. And the way you can technically break it up is that every 5 candles here going up or 5 candles going down is a 5 minute candle down here, because down here is the 5 minute chart view, right? So it's basically 5 minute here, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5, and it continues to run rev downward. And you can see it's the same moving up here, right? Kind of goes up a bit, down, up, and then right shooting back down. So the exact same flow, if you will, right? So it's showing the same thing, but just different time frames, and you can easily just change them anytime you want. But these two are the core ones here. So for my strategy, being the supply and demand trading strategy, it's basically I'm drawing my zones down here at the bottom left on the 5 minute chart, and on the top chart, top left over here, this is where I'm doing my entries and exits to keep things super simple and kind of separated. And the other things on the chart, really, I try not to have any technical indicators at all, except for the one. You can see it's for the most part pretty clean of a chart. So let me zoom in for you. There's nothing else here besides the candles, which I have to have so I can read what's going on, reading the chart essentially. But I only have two other things, right? I have this little red line, or not red, sorry, I guess I'm colorblind, but this pink/purple line, whatever it is. Someone let me know what it is. And this bottom down here, these blue kind of lines down here. So to walk through both, basically this top one here is what's called VWAP, which stands for the volume weighted average price. This essentially is the only indicator I personally care about, just because it's the closest thing you can get to being a real-time indicator. Most of the other indicators are what's called lagging indicators, being that they give you this information after the fact, or they actually give you information that's pretty obvious for the most part, right? So perfect example, if you've ever heard of the RSI, or feel free to stop this video, go ahead and Google something called the RSI, and you'll see it shows you something that says, oh, when it's overbought and it's oversold, which in hindsight, all it means is that, as an example, if something's overbought, that means that the price has skyrocketed up, and if it's oversold, the price has skyrocketed downward. I used to use that until I kind of realized, oh, okay, so it's technically, as an example, oversold if it's down by a lot. That's what the indicator is showing. Well, why do I need the indicator to tell me that? I can clearly see if I write down here it's oversold, right? It just reversed. So I will challenge you to say that, hey, Google what the RSI is for one if you don't already, but then if you do know what it is, go back to do this. What I like to do for some of my students. Go put the RSI on your chart, but just make it so it's not visible. And then just pretend, just see if you can guess where it's overbought and oversold. I would imagine you're gonna say, okay, here it looks like it's overbought up here, and then you'll pick and choose different specific spots. And once you pop the RSI indicator on, you'll say, oh, okay, actually I was right 80% of the time. So then you need to question yourself and say, well, why the hell do I have this useless metric on, right? So Don't waste space. Don't overcomplicate things. Keep things super simple. Only reason I keep the VWAP here is that, as you can see, it actually bounces off the freaking VWAP, and this is not something that's predictable per se because it's actually just a pretty clear line, right? Uh, and it's just showing what I only care about, which is the price, which are the candles here, and volume, which I'm going to talk about down here. So, and it's just a mixture of the two to show if it's trending up, then it's trending upward, right? But so let's talk, that's the VWAP, right? That's the only indicator I keep on there. And then the other piece here that most people have, not everybody has, is volume. Volume's important, but I don't necessarily look at it all the time either, right? So volume basically shows you, hey, this is how many people are buying and selling at this point in time. And keep it super simple. So there are numbers over here like the 0.02, 0.2, 0.4, and this is in the millions of how much people are buying this. But keep it super simple. Just look at how large the sticks are. The larger it is, the more volume it is. And to keep things even more simple than that, so within the first basic hour or so, so for me, I'm in Houston, Texas personally. So the market opens at about 8:30 a.m. CST. I technically start trading at about 9:30 a.m. CST. And if you know my strategy, there's a reason why to that, right? But if I draw a line here at about 9:30, you can see from the left, the volume is typically a lot higher than it is during the day. A little bit, probably for another 30 minutes or so, it's relatively high, but for the majority, kind of intraday in the middle of the day, was what that means, is that it's relatively very low. Then so once it gets towards the end of the day, which is going to end over here at about this time, the volume starts picking up again. So keep that in mind when it comes to that. Sometimes maybe you don't like sometimes you like the high volume, which is a high amount of people buying and selling. Maybe you can get in there, or maybe you like, and if you do as well, same thing towards the end of the day, which is called power hour, right? The last hour of the day. But most of the time, that intraday volume is a little bit lower, a little bit slower, easier to catch moves because for me, at least with my strategy, I like the stability and the consistency of making consistent profits without being stressed out trying to let me catch this huge move and ride it on up, right? But again, that's what my strategy, and I'm just throwing in little pieces here and there. But this is the 1 minute chart view, right? So if I go to the 5 minute, let me explain that here. So I click this little bottom piece here, these three little lines, and I can click maximize sell. And then there's this piece here. This is the same exact view, right? If you go back, you can actually see it's moving the same way, but it's just to 5 minutes, right? So with here, this is where I would essentially draw my zones. You'll learn that in other tutorials that I basically talk about a lot of how to draw zones. But since I'm here, I'll just show you how to use the tool in itself, right? So in order to use any tool, depends on what you're using, whether it's a mouse or a computer. Well, both, I guess. But if you're using a mouse on a window on a desktop computer, or if you're using a laptop, it'll be different because on a laptop you don't have a mouse, right? So if you have a mouse in the middle of the wheel, you can actually click it inside of the wheel. And if you do that, this little toolbar comes up, and this allows you to essentially choose whatever tool that you want to draw. So that way you can choose your drawing tools, right? So if I wanted to choose the circle or oval, you can click this oval, left click once, and you can drag it to however long you want to whatever direction, and then you left click to let it go, right? And if you don't have a mouse, that's fine. You can actually go over here to drawings on the top right, click drawings, and then you go to drawing tools here. And then it's the same thing, but it's just what you have to go 1, 2 steps to get to it, which is the same, right? It doesn't matter unless you're trying to aggressively draw something so fast, so it doesn't matter technically. So, but that's how to get to your tools with that. So you can draw your oval, you can draw a simple line, you can draw a square, right? And then on top of that, you can change colors of different things as well. So if you right click on this, you can click edit properties. And then this comes up, this little interesting window for properties. You can essentially change the length of the zone of this rectangle here. You can make it longer. Or if you're thinking, well, I didn't want to make it that long, let me right click again and click undo, edit rectangle, that it can go back. Then you can think, okay, well, let me go back and I want to edit some more properties to it. I don't like the green. Let me change the color of it. So you can click on color here. You can change it to red and do that. And then for me, I personally don't like that red myself. So I'll go back to edit, color, and then I can click more here. And then for me, I like it to be a better looking red. So you can go to HSV and change your transparency and play with that. So that way the perfect number, in my opinion, is going to 60. Click OK, then OK again, and it changes it to a transparent color of a red though, right? So if you were to have this hypothetically over something, you can still see the chart, the candles, and this. And so what I mean by that is that also, since you can move it, you can right click and activate drawing. You can hypothetically move this on top, right? And that way you can still see both of those perfectly, right? So that's that. And there's a lot of other tools you can play around with, like this line over here I created. It's this piece here, which is called the time level. There's arrows, and there's other kind of indicator for technical indicators based items as well. But the only main other two pieces to talk about is the pointer and the panning. So for the way this works is that, let's say if you click the pointer, right? The pointer is this. And that why that's important is that you can, let's say if we go back to the 1 minute view, if I go back, maximize cell, and we're back in the 1 minute view. You see the same things are showing up from the other chart to here, by the way. And we're thinking, okay, let's zoom in from where I drew this line at 8:30 or 9:30 on back to 8:30. Then you can, from you left clicking and dragging, it's zoomed in. You may be thinking, well, okay, I can't see now, or I can't see on the right. You can scroll over with the mouse wheel, or you can use this arrow down here to do the same thing as well, or you can drag and pull it over, right? And by the arrow, I meant I clicked the wrong one. It's this little right click here and this little left click, which is very small. Or you can, pull it essentially left and right, like I mentioned. But you might be thinking, well, okay, I want to get out and look at the wider picture. You can either click this, the zoom out button, and keep clicking until it zooms out fully, and now you see it's not there. Or for me, since I have a mouse on a computer on a desktop, I've zoomed back in. I can actually right click and click auto zoom here, and then it auto zooms out for me, so it makes it a lot easier to see. So that's that piece, right? Um, and then if I go back here, now you can essentially go back to maximize cell. And the only other piece here is this panning tool. Now the panning tool, you can do the same thing as moving it, which is you left click, hold it, and you can drag the entire chart, right? So it's similar to before, being that if we zoomed in and we use the panning tool, then you can just pull it over, hypothetically, if you want to, right? But that's that. Those are the main two tools. There is like other lines essentially that you can draw like this rather than just a straight line. That way you can draw them essentially really wherever you want to. And then the last piece is that, of course, there's little text box if you wanted that text box. So you can play with that, do whatever you want to, and that's that piece. But that's my 5 minute chart. On the right side here, these are my other final charts and whatnot. So on the top right, this is essentially where I'm buying and selling. This is how you buy and sell in ThinkOrSwim to make it easier. There's other people that go to I believe that's the trade tab, if I remember correctly, to do the buying and selling, but it's too complicated. Why do that? What I usually like doing, per se, is actually buying and selling on this, and then it makes it so much easier. So the way this typically works is that, let's say you're thinking, hey, it looks like the chart's going the exact way I want to. This is an option, right? I can essentially put in the quantity of how many I want to buy, click this auto send button, and then I click it, and then it'll be able to buy it, and it'll be on the market for me to purchase. The good news about ThinkOrSwim is that the way this works, I can essentially click buy one time, and you see it automatically bought it within probably a second or so. Same thing with selling. I click it the one time to sell in the red, and it automatically sold it. It's just that quick. Rather than you go to this other tab over here and trade, and you find this specific thing you want, and then go back and all this junk. It's too much. No one cares to go and do all this extra kind of fluff, right? Make things simple. Trading's an interesting game, right? But at the same time, if you can't explain it simply, if you can't do what you need to do in a simple manner, you're overcomplicating it. Don't overcomplicate things. So in order for all this to work, right? So let me show you this. So this is option specific, right? But you can still do this from a stock perspective, right? So options wise, the way my chart is, once you download my template, is that you can right click, or not, sorry, you can left click on this little drop down menu here. And then what should come up for you is this list that says all. And this is basically a whole bunch of different stocks and tickers that you can basically choose from. What you need to do is go over to options, left click that, and this isn't going to show up for you yet, right? What's going to show up for you is that it's going to say, it's not even going to say SPY, but it's going to show all again. So it's basically what's happening here is it's saying that, hey, choose first you have all, then tell me you want to choose options, and then click this drop down menu one more time, and then you're going to go, for me, it's going to be in recent, and you can double click SPY, and then that's where this is going to come up essentially for you to choose your option. So what you're looking at is your option chain here, if you will, which is basically showing you that, hey, these are all the options for that current day that you can basically choose. You can choose that. So for example, this is back in time, right? January 13th of the past of this year. And you can basically say, okay, I want to choose the one that expires today. Then you can choose the option you want to expire today. Or maybe you're thinking I wanted to choose the option that expires in 2 days, which is January 15th. You can do that, right? It's up to you. But there's this little drop down menu so you can do so. Now, the way it works is that what you're looking at, this is called the option chain. This is basically to say that if you want to buy an option call, they're all on the left. If you want to buy an option put, they're all on the right. And to break it down further than that, they're all the way options work is that you can choose in the purple or in the black. For me, I usually choose the one in the middle, and they have different names essentially. So all the ones in the purple, they're called in the money essentially, and all the ones in the black, they're called out of the money. And then the one right in the middle, right here, is called at the money, since it's the first one in the purple, right? The ones on the right, same thing, but basically opposite. So in the money, out of the money, at the money, right? So same thing, but opposite. And that's basically that piece there. In order to click whichever option you want to choose, you just click it the one time, right, on this piece here. And you can see that, so for one, from a comparison perspective, you see this is strike 380. Current price is 380 on the stock again, right? So that if you see over here, the left is the stock, the right side over for me anyway are the options. So like I mentioned before, since the current price of the stock is $380, that means the one at the money is right here for a call anyway, for at 380. So strike 380, price of the stock 380. The first one at the money is that. So we can go ahead and click that, and this is what's going to pop up for you. If you choose a different one, it's going to be a different little numbers that you're basically buying it at. And so this is the price of the option, but this is that strike price, which relates to the stock over here. And so the way it works essentially is exactly how I mentioned before. So from my view, I basically have this buy and sell window, which I kind of showed you how to use briefly, right? But again, you can basically show that, hey, I want to buy maybe 20 contracts, 60, 100, whatever, 400. Or you can use this to go back. You're like, well, I don't want to buy that many. I want to buy one contract. That's expensive, right? Or you're like, I want to buy, I want to buy 400 contracts, hypothetically, right? But realistically, for a lot of you, 20, maybe 10, maybe 5, or realistically one, right? Just to get the ball rolling is what you need to do. But if you notice, there's this little auto send button. If you have that clicked off and you click anywhere in the price, it'll pull up a window down here that says, hey, if you want to buy 20 of these contracts, it's $1,200 at this current value, right? The way that math works is essentially going to be this gray box. So the gray box is what the current price is, and then it's going to be times 100 because there's 100 contracts within every single option, and then times that by the quantity of however many you're trying to buy, which is 20, right? And that's where that number came from, right? So same thing if it was at, from a simplistic perspective, if we go to 1, we do this, so you can do that math there, right? Times the 1, technically, because it was 69 cents. But to break it down a little more, so you see how it's fluctuating right here? So it was at like, what, 0.60 something before, and now it's going kind of up to 0.70. This correlates to this, right? This is the option price that we're currently looking at. But on the left side here, you can second see, hey, the price is going up as a result. So let me zoom in. So you can see in the past what we've been looking for, I've been talking for 2-3 minutes or so. See, it's going upward. That's why this price was going up at first as well. 'Cause I believe it's at 64 or something. But yeah, so that's why that price is going up. So the 68 cents here is what the current price is at that point in time. So if you're hypothetically thinking, okay, I'm ready to buy, then that's where you're gonna click this auto send, which you can kind of think of from a gun perspective. It's taking your safety off, I guess you can say. And then you have the one contract, and you can kind of hover over it within the green to say, okay, I'm ready to buy. And then you basically click the one time and then get your order filled. And then perfect example, you see how it didn't get filled here? The current price is 68, but I'm have it hovering over 0.70, right? Sometimes your orders don't get automatically filled, especially if it's not even near that price, or if there's no volume, or if it's moving too fast. See how it seemed like I tried to drag it over, but it shot up to 73 cents? I can't buy it if it's cheaper, right? So sometimes that's where it comes into you need to kind of play with this, just pull it around, basically, really, essentially, to say, okay, I want to buy it at this price, or hey, I want to buy it at this price, or oops, I accidentally bought it. But you basically say, hey, I want to buy it at the current price since it was moving up in price and value. So I basically bought it there. And I essentially know I bought it for two reasons. One, on the right, it basically shows me my P&L open if it goes up or if it goes down of how much I've won up here, how much I lost down here. So hypothetically, in this case, it's going down. I lost $3, right, so far. And it also has a POS number here to say, okay, this is how many contracts I currently have now at this point in time. But the nice thing about this whole window here, and you can see I'm down $8 at this point. The nice thing, and this is fake money, right? It's on the on-demand platform, so I don't care. But the nice thing about this is that the way you can technically do this and make it nice is that you can really say that, hey, I bought at this price, but I want to sell later on at a profit, obviously, right? So you can kind of scroll up and say, okay, I'll sell when it gets to, let's say, $12. So you can go ahead and here, left click and have your order sitting here because you clicked on the red and there's like this one, -1 limit order sell here for you to sell at this price. But vice versa, if you're thinking, man, this thing's shooting down, down $11. If this goes to -16, so at 0.60, I'm selling here, my worst case scenario. This is basically you putting your stop loss, right? So your stop loss can be there, but vice versa, you can think, hey man, if this keeps going up, I scrolled up, right? And it gets to 84 cents, I might buy one. You can basically put another order in so you can kind of do what's called scaling in. So you can kind of play with this, right? I technically have three orders sitting on the table, basically. And if it gets down to that, then it would stop me out. But maybe I'm thinking, you know what? I can think I can give it some wiggle room. I don't want to cancel this out. So you can click this little X and it takes off your stop loss and it'll keep going down, right? So obviously we don't necessarily want that, but I'll let it keep going down. It doesn't matter. We'll see by the end of this video how much money I've hypothetically lost on the fake money. So that'll be a little fun. So click this off, and then we can go from there. So, but this is essentially how to use the what's called the active trader window on how to buy and how to sell. That's this piece up here. What you're looking at in this window and down here is a little bit different, right? So at the bottom here is what's called level 2, and this basically shows you that in the bid over here, and there's an ask. So this is what everyone's bidding for, what they want to buy the price for at the current value, and this is what they want to sell for at that current value. And you see 63 here, it's currently 63, and it usually tries to match it. Sometimes this one's a little ahead than this one, or vice versa, but you just have to really watch it because it can give you more information really. And from on the right here, it kind of shows you this BS, this batch size and the ask size, or sorry, bid size and ask size. And this is really just showing you how many contracts are being potentially bought at this. And if you keep in mind, it's not just 1 or 48 or 30. You actually can add a 0 to that if I remember correctly. So it's actually 300, 390, so on and so forth. And it moves very fast, right? Because this is not everyday people buying it, not everyday Joes and Jills. This is actual hedge funds buying this, the big investors, the guys with the big bucks actually driving the market, not us, little fry, basically buying this. While they're making their millions, we're making our couple thousands here and there, which again, I'm perfectly fine with, right? I trade for a living. I can't complain that I'm trading for a living, but I'm not a billionaire. But anyway, so that's that piece, right? This is level 2, so you can kind of watch that. There's much more to it, but I'll leave that there. The top left here, this is exactly what we're looking at over here, but in the chart form, right? So you see it's 60 cents and it's kind of going down. Let me zoom in. So this is the chart of the option. Not so many people know you can chart the option itself, but this is the chart of the option. And I get that just from clicking the chart window here, right? So it basically pops up for me. So that's exactly that. So you can see for the earlier part of the day, it essentially kind of flowed with where everything was going, right? And it's auto send out. And what's nice about it is that you can basically see, so look at how the market flowed on the left, went over, down, and then basically started going up. It basically did the same thing, over, down, started basically going up. So, and it's a little over exaggerated, especially with option cost price over here versus over here, right? But it's technically still the same thing. It follows the motion of the stock because the option is a derivative of the stock. So that's that. But that's essentially how you use the to buy everything, right? The only other thing I mentioned on this window is that if you have an order here and an order there and orders down here, if you wanted to cancel everything, you can click cancel all here, and then they all vanish, right? But yeah, that's that. And the only next window to really cover is this bottom right window. You can change this, right? Depending on which version you download, this can either be this view up here, but a 5-minute chart version of it, or what you see down here is multiple different days. So if I zoom in here, this is basically the 5-day, 5-minute chart right here. So it's the exact same thing we were looking at over here, which is the 1-day, 5-day chart, but this 1-day, 5-minute chart, but this is the 5-day, 5-minute chart. So if I maximize cell here, I can show you what I'm talking about. So with this is all the drawings we did today, right? The circle, the lines, the text box, the rectangle, all of that. But this is the activity that happened in the past 5 days. And it's basically there's no pre-market data, there's no post-market data. Pre-market is basically what's to show that hey, what happened before the market opened, and post-market is hey, what happened after the market closed. I personally don't have that on this chart. You can if you want to, but I don't have it on there because the volume's so low, but I'll leave it at that. So, but this is showing the same thing. So this is essentially today. This would be that January 13th. This was the 12th, and so on and so forth, the 11th, and so on and so on and so on. This is a pretty revving up day over here, which is interesting, right? But that's that. There's nothing more to it. You can see there's the days down here: Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, Friday, Thursday, and then the Wednesday over here, and it kind of shows you that the hour slots, if you will, so it can fit on the one screen, right? But this is that, right? This is exactly the 4 charts of how to trade using my system. And look, we're down negative 25, right? So we can go ahead and sell that. So took a little longer, but negative $25. Not too bad, right? Now, if we were in a much bigger options, then that'd be a little much larger of a loss to say the least. But that's that. But this is how to use the charts for the ThinkOrSwim platform for how to download it, how to use it, so on and so forth. And if I go back again to the view of it, it's back here. Again, this is the link for it. This is basically if you notice again, this is the exact chart that we walked through essentially to the T. The bottom here is for some other people that maybe don't have a larger desktop. Mine looks nice like this, if you will, because it's on a desktop that's 27 inches. So everything's larger. I can see everything. It's nice of a view. If you have a laptop view, this is the exact same view you can use. So you can copy it from clicking the download here and doing that. But it makes it super simple, right? This is just the 1-minute view, and this is how you buy and sell. And the only thing that's different for you is that instead of having the 1-minute and the 5-minute view, you have to click up here in this little 1-minute tab and switch back and forth between the 1-minute and the 5-minute. If you're using my strategy for the supply and demand trading strategy that adaptation that I've basically came up with, if you will. So, but that's that. This is what you'll be able to download. And I hope that makes a lot of sense on how to use the ThinkOrSwim platform. If you have any questions, let me know. If you're one of my students, definitely let me know in the classes that we have, or in our one-on-ones, or in the chat room, or any of that. But hopefully that helps, and I'll talk to any of y'all soon.